Hi guys, Dawn here. In today's video, I have a fun project for you that's really simple and easy and very beginner friendly. Today we're going to stitch up these coasters. These coasters come in 4.5 inch, 5.5 inch, 6.5 inch, and 7.5 inch. So there's 4 sizes of the coasters. This same process is also going to be for the hot pads that come in 8.5 inch, 9.5 inch, 10.5 inch, and 11.5 inch. So you get 4 sizes of the coasters and 4 sizes of the hot pads. The process is the same for both of these. So today I'll be demonstrating how to stitch the coaster, but it's the same exact process for doing the hot pads. If you're new to my channel, please click that subscribe button and right next to it, the bell to be notified when I upload new content. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you for being here and for subscribing to my channel. Also, please give me a thumbs up because I really enjoy making these videos for you. And also it helps my channel to grow, and I'd be forever grateful. So let's talk about how to make these coasters and hot pads. So for me, I just use these more as decorative items. I don't really use them for super hot things, but if you're going to be using the hot pad for hot pots that, you know, just came off of the stove or something that came out of the oven, you're going to want to make sure you use cotton threads so that they don't melt. Also, on the inside, instead of using batting, you can use something like Embroidery, which will help be protective of your table underneath. So in this video, we're going to cover the process on how to put these coasters and hot pads together, how to assemble them. But if you're here for a different design in the center, this process is going to be the same exact. The steps are going to be the same. The only thing that'll change is what is in the center here. And what you will then do is find the stitch order chart that's included in the file of the purchase, and you can follow along the steps for whatever it is you're putting in the center here. Let's start with the supplies we're going to need. You're going to need some stabilizer. I like to use a medium cutaway stabilizer like this. You can also use a poly mesh. This is going to give you less structure. If you want more structure in it, a medium cutaway might be better than the mesh. You're going to need your fabrics, so something for the back and for the front background, 2 pieces for the pumpkin, and then the piece for the stem. You're going to want to have some good applique scissors, your embroidery thread, a rotary cutter to trim it up at the end, a quilting ruler, some batting, or even some bag making foam or sew-in foam, your choice on that, an iron, and some heat and bond light or other iron-on adhesive for the back side of the applique pieces. Let's get started with stitching. The first thing we're going to stitch is the placement line for the batting. We've stitched the placement line for the batting. Now you place the batting piece on top of, covering all the stitching, and now we'll tack that down. So here's an extra hint. If you want to have extra loft in the fabric or in the shape afterwards, you can use 2 layers of batting. We have tacked down the batting. Now we're going to trim close to the batting. This prevents bulk in the seam afterwards. Here's another hint of something I like to do. This is the Sew Tights magnetic rotating mat, and I like to put my hoop on the mat, and I use these booster magnets because this mat has some metal in it and it is magnetic with the magnets on it. So I like to take my magnetic rotating mat from Sew Tights and put these booster magnets on it. And then when I trim, I can simply just pull up gently on the batting and trim. As I'm trimming, the hoop will spin around and I can trim without having to keep rotating the mat. Now that I've trimmed all the batting, we will take the piece of fabric that's going to be the base of the coaster or hot pad, and now we will tack that down, and then it will stitch the quilting at the same time. Another little tip, in case you don't want to use tape to tape down and hold your fabric, you can use these Sew Tight magnets. They are great for being able to hold the fabric in the hoop while you are tacking it down, and it's a lot less waste on tape, and it keeps your fingers out of the way of the hoop. And so I love using these as well for being able to hold the fabric. So I just stitched the quilting, and I'm not sure if you can see it very well, but there is quilting on this. So it stitched the tack down and then the quilting. And then I went ahead and stitched the placement line for the stem. That's going to stitch next. So I have my fabric treated with some Heat and Bond Light or Steam-A-Seam, something like that, Steam-A-Seam Light. And now I will place that on top of the fabric there for the pumpkin stem, and I will tack that down. So I have now stitched the placement or the tack down for the stem fabric, and now I'm going to trim it. The next thing to stitch is going to be the placement for the two outer pieces of the pumpkin. I've stitched the placement for the two outer sides of the pumpkin, and now I will take my fabric that is treated with the Heat and Bond Light and remove the paper, place them down, and now I will tack both of these pieces down. The right side is going to stitch first and then the left side. Now that I've tacked down these two side pieces, I'm going to trim them close to the stitching. Now I will stitch the placement stitch for the center here, place that fabric, and then tack it down. I have stitched the placement stitch for the center of the pumpkin. Now I'm going to take my fabric, remove the paper from the back, place it over all the stitching there, and I will tack that down. I have stitched the tack down for the centerpiece here, and now I'm going to trim it. So one thing I wanted to note is you could have started stitching this design using the same color thread and left it all the way up to this point. So what I would have normally started with is the color that was going to match the background here for my coaster or hot pad, and I would have just stitched all of that in this color up to this point where I'm at right now. And now I will change the color because the next thing to stitch is going to be the leaves and the little tendril on the side of the pumpkin. So now I will change my thread to that green color. One other thing you could do right now that I like to do before doing my satin stitching is I like to iron these pieces down and really attach the iron-on adhesive that's on the back side of these things. But I like to make sure I don't have any little pieces left on the hoop here that is going to end up getting ironed down. You can see there were a bit of threads, and they may have had some pieces of the adhesive on them. So I like to use my lint remover here, lint roller, and get those pieces up. And now I like to just give a nice press to hold these pieces down. This is an Oliso iron that is great for in the hoop because it's a great size to be able to get in your hoop. You can see the sole plate is just this big, and it really helps you to iron in the hoop. So now I'm going to do the decorative stitching for the parts of the leaf and the tendril. The next thing to stitch is going to be the satin stitching for the outside of the stem. So I'm going to leave it the same color as the green and stitch that now. The next thing to stitch is going to be the outside satin stitching for the outside of the pumpkin. And so I'm going to change my thread color to this, and then the next is going to be the inside circle of the pumpkin, and then I will change my thread color to that. Once those are complete, I'll come back. So this is the back fabric I'm going to be using, so it's easier for you to see right side and wrong side. So I'm going to take it, and I don't cut it in half. I cut it so that one side is a little bit longer. So this is going to be an envelope back, and so we want to make sure that it will meet up in the center, but it will have a side that is pressed. So I like to not have it, like I said, not exactly in half, because the one side I'm going to take it and I'm going to press. I'm going to take it and I'm going to press an edge like this with my iron. So now I have two pieces here, one with an edge folded over and ironed, and then one that is just all raw edges. So I'm going to take some Steam Seam 2 here, and I'm going to place it on this edge of the raw edge. And I'm going to iron that on there. Once I've done that, I'm going to take this this folded edge and lay it on top of this piece like that. Now you can tape it if you want, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to turn it over like this. So this is an important step in this process. So on the right side here, so these are right side down now. On the right side here, I have the piece with the folded edge. On the left side, I have the piece with the heat and bond light, or the Steam Seam, and making sure I'm covering all of the stitching. So the stitching on all the sides, all the circle, I've covered all the stitching. So now when the design stitches, it's going to start over here, it's going to stitch this way, and then it's going to come back and go all the way around and around a second time. That is done on purpose so that when you place them down exactly like this, your presser foot is not going to be getting caught underneath the fabric. That's why it's important to have the folded edge for the right piece and the raw edge on top of the folded piece on the left side. All right, we've finished tacking down the back, so we remove it from the hoop now and trim away. I like to trim the stabilizer as close to the stitching as I can. Again, another way to reduce bulk in the design, but that's just a preference. You could just trim it all at one time, everything if you wish. And now you can trim the rest of the fabric. I'm going to do it from the back because it's easier for me to see with the color I used on the fabric. But I'm just going about 1/4 of an inch around. Now we get to turn it right side out. And now I like to take my mat and I like to use my fingers. I'm kind of going like this to get a nice edge around the perimeter. And get my iron. And I'm going to come from the back, and I like to pull the fabric towards me. And on the front, I like to use a pressing cloth when I go on top of the satin stitching. Now I'm going to take this, was the heat, the Steam Seam 2, put it in there to make sure that this flap is going to cover it. I just use a little bit of heat from my fingers to kind of activate the glue to help get the paper off. Seems to help it come off easier that way. Make sure it's all inside of the fold here. I'm going to give it a nice finger press first. You can also hand sew this if you wish. I like to just do the steam-a-seam. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I had a lot of fun creating these designs for you and also demonstrating how to make them. If you liked this video, please remember to give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the bell next to it to be notified when I upload new content. And until I see you next time, guys, make your life creative.